It's Inktober! Inktober is an annual drawing challenge where for every day in October you draw something with ink, then you take a photo of it or scan it and upload it to your social media with the hashtag Inktober. It was started in 2009 by illustrator Jake Parker, who was kind of looking to expand his skill set. So he set himself this challenge and started uploading photos of his work, and people loved it, and the idea spread virally to artists throughout the world, and they started posting their own Inktober challenges in October. And now it's become this huge thing. There's an official prompt list on Jake Parker's site that gives you ideas for things to draw, keywords for every day for something to draw. So I'll link that here and stuff like that. So it's a great idea if you're finding yourself in a rut. Like if you're maybe too comfortable with the way you work with the things that you're doing. Inktober and challenges like it, like the 24-hour comic challenge. These kind of things are great to kind of break you out of your box and force you to do something that maybe you're not so comfortable with. So, with that said, if I was a smarter person, I would have set this up so I would be doing Inktober challenges on the YouTube channel and drawing stuff and recording it. But I don't have the right setup. And also, these past couple weeks have been really busy with other gigs that I just haven't had a chance to either record anything, or let alone record myself drawing something in ink. So today I just wanted to show you some of my favorite inking tools. These are things I use when I go to conventions, or if I need a break from drawing digitally, I'll just break out my fun little pens. So I'm going to go over each of them and why I like them and how I use them and all that kind of good stuff. And I'll see you back here.
Alright, I've got 6 pens that I usually use when I'm out in the field, like at a convention, or if I'm just sick of looking at a screen and drawing on the computer. So from left to right, we've got a Pilot, Quickie, Ballpoint, something or other, don't know what it's called. We got a Micron. I have Microns of various sizes. This just happened to be the one that was closest to me. The Sharpie Mini, whatever the hell this is, it's a Sharpie pen. We got a Zebra pen, then we got the Pentel Pilot pocket brush, and then a Koretake brush pen. So we're going to start with the left. All right. Oh, and also pro tip. So this is a sheet of cardstock from Staples. It's about the same weight as Strathmore Bristol. I don't think it's multiply, but it's the same weight as Bristol. So if you want to get a shit ton of paper for not a whole lot, go to your local Staples and get their cardstock. It comes in packs of like 250. Hammermill also has a really good cardstock, which is the same weight as Bristol. So if you are sick of paying way too much for those little tablets of Bristol, go get a whole shit ton at Staples for cheap. All right, so this is my favorite type of ballpoint pen. This is the Pilot. Let me get a better look at this. This is called the retractable fine. Pilot Better Retractable Fine. Okay, whatever. But this is great because it has a nice soft touch. Like if you use a soft touch, you can do really sketchy lines. And if you want to go in a little bit darker, you can. I'm just drawing a little monster here. So you can do stuff pretty quickly, and then if you want to get a little bit more dark, just use a little bit more pressure. So you can do sketchy pencil-like lines with it to start, and get a little bit more crazy with it. It's also great for cross-hatching, so if you're into cross-hatching, this is a great pen for that kind of stuff. If you're used to working with a pencil in your shading, this type of ballpoint pen in particular does a great job of mimicking that feel. So that's why I like it. I use this a lot when I'm on the road Like if I'm using my stupid little sketchbook and I have dumb ideas for something, I'll usually use this pen. It's my preferred everyday, sketch everyday kind of pen. And then here's my monster avocado looking thing. There you go. Alright, so there's that for light pencil-like lines and stuff like that. Next pen, we got Micron. You should be familiar with Micron. #1 archival ink for acid-free environments. Yeah. So this is a 005 right here. It's very thin, but the nice thing about Microns is they have a consistent line. So if I wanted to do an outline of this guy. So the thin ones pull a very consistent line. It's very dark. I don't know if this is showing up on camera, but it's darker than the ballpoint pen stuff. So this is good. The little ones are good for like little filigree designs and things like this. If you get a slightly larger Micron, like a #3 or a 5 or a 7, you can get brush-like strokes. By that I mean if you push down, you'll get a thicker line, and if you let go with the pressure, you'll get a nice little edge at the tip. So you'll get a brush-like stroke. With a Micron that's this size, that's this small, you don't necessarily get that pressure benefit. So if I want to pull a straight line or if I want to pull a thin line that doesn't have any variation to it, I will use a Micron. So if I want like a outline to a robot or a mech or something like this filigree pattern, this is great because you just pull a straight line, you know. It's the same consistency, same line width, so it's great for boxes or just, you know, beveled edges, that kind of stuff. These are also good if you want to put scratches in your surface. So like if I wanted this surface to look like it's been through something, you know, you just put in some scratches and dents and that kind of stuff. With the smaller sized Microns, you can also get some of that feathered shading that you get with the ballpoint pen. It's a little bit more consistent, so you have darker cross hatching, that kind of stuff. And sometimes I'll use that with these guys. But usually if I'm using a Micron, I'm just pulling lines that I want to be consistent, the same size, all that kind of stuff. Alright, so Microns, various sizes, go get some. Micron also has a brush pen, but I don't like it because the tip is felt, and felt-tipped brush pens tend to wear out. Alright, so the Sharpie pen. This is great for signing books, and that's pretty much the only reason I use this pen, because it does not bleed. And but the tips do bend, so my daughter got a hold of this one and kind of mashed it on the paper, so we'll see how this goes. But it pulls a straight, consistent line. It's like the Microns, but a lot cheaper. So if you're in the market for something quick and dirty, and you don't necessarily need line variation, you can get a pack of 3 of these for pretty cheap. I wish I had a price list in front of me, but these are way more affordable than Microns. So if this tip is the size of line that you're looking for, I would suggest going and getting these instead of the Microns. Like if you don't want to have a whole bunch of variety in your line width, or if you don't need like all the sizes, if you don't need the super fine or the super thick lines, then this one is pretty good. They last for a long time. They don't bleed when you're signing your books, so it's great if you're signing on the inside cover. You don't have to worry about putting like a blotter so it doesn't bleed out to the next pen or the next page. And in general, it has a nice consistent dark line. The ink is nice. It's permanent Sharpie ink, so if you like the Sharpie ink, you're getting that in this this little dude. I have no idea what's going on here. This is sort of like a whale thing. But yeah, these are fun to use because they're easy to get, and they're everywhere. So yeah, when you go to Staples and you buy your big ass pack of paper, you can buy a shit ton of these, and then you're good to go, off to the races. All right, next one. Now we're getting into fancy brush pens. This is the Zebra brush pen. I believe I bought this off of jetpens.com. And no, they're not sponsoring this because I'm not smart and I didn't contact them. But also my channel isn't big enough yet. But yeah, JetPens is a great way for you to spend a lot of money on fun art tools. And I'll open this sucker up. Whoop. So you can see it's got a brush tip. This is a felt tip. So not my favorite type of brush pen, but this one is pretty solid. This one lasts for a lot longer than some of the other ones that I've used. So, and the reason I use this guy is for line variation. So if you draw lightly, you get these little thin lines, and then if you go a little bit thicker, press down a little bit more, you can get thicker lines. So this is a very consistent brush pen. Like I said, it's a felt tip, so eventually it will wear out, but a new one of these is pretty nice. And I try not to mash down on the nib too much, because that's the best way to ruin your pen quickly. So yeah, the Zebra brush is pretty consistent. This one is slightly drier than it was when I first got it, so it lets me do some dry brush techniques if I hold it all the way to the side. So this is great if I'm like shading, like if I wanted to shade part of this monster here, I could do this kind of thing, and you can get that dry brush feeling to your line. Otherwise, it's like a good solid brush pen. It's better than let's see, who else makes a brush pen that I hate? Oh, the Micron Brush Pen. That's not very good. That's not true. The Micron Brush Pen is fine, like for the first week that you're using it. But if you use it on a consistent basis, that felt tip is going to degrade and turn into mush. So you have to keep buying them, and it's a scam. It's how they get you to buy more. You're like, oh, you like brush pens? Use our brush pen. Oh, it degrades really quickly. Too bad for you. Sharpie also makes a brush pen. It's a lot thicker. It's like a brush marker. It's got a very flexible tip. I use that to fill large areas of black, and that's pretty much all I use it for. So, but yeah, Zebra, if you must get a felt tipped brush pen, the Zebra pens are great. They last a little bit longer than some of the other ones. So, all right. Blah, 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 blah. This is really difficult to do one-handed. All right, Pentel Pocket Brush. When I discovered this brush, I lost my friggin' mind, because I'd been looking for a pen that accurately mimicked the feeling I got when I used my brush. And I didn't bring that down here with me today because it was a little bit messy and a little bit more difficult to do with one hand. So we're just talking about pens today. But this is the Pentel Pocket Brush. It comes in pieces. So let's see. This is what it looks like. It's a nylon tip. So this tip is actually made up of a number of different nylon strands. And it comes to a nice point, especially when there's ink flowing it. And unlike a traditional brush, this brush is refillable. So here is the ink cartridge. And there you go. And as long as your pen has ink in it, the bristles will hold. So this is really cool. This is the closest thing to a traditional brush that you're going to get. And it's great for like really light, thin lines, or if you're wanting getting into something more thick and crazy, you can do that kind of stuff. You know, it gives you a lot of control. But there's also, because it's a brush tip, there's a little bit of there's a little chaos there. You're not entirely sure what's going to happen when you're pulling that brush line, because it could go a little bit left, it could skew, it could snap in a weird way that you're not intending. So there's a little bit of chaos to using brush pens. The reason I like the Pentel pocket brush is that if you screw it up a little bit and you mash it down, you can get some of these dry brush effects, like at the edge here. So this is an older brush. I don't remember when I got this, but this has been abused, and you can see it frays a little bit when you're drawing. So this one is nice for getting some like dry brush effects on the edges of your stroke. Then the other thing about using a brush pen like this is that you don't have to use a whole lot of pressure, so it's easier on your wrist and your hand. So if you find yourself when you're using a Micron and you're bunching up and you're using way too much pressure and you're kind of using a death grip on your pen, with a pocket brush you don't need to do that. Like, you can get a really thick line just by, pushing down a little bit, and there you go. You don't have to like dig into the paper. You don't have to crease the paper and fill that crease with ink. Sorry for the skip. It was a little sneeze. Yeah, so you can get a lot of ink. There's a lot of cartridge. These ink cartridges last for a long time. You could fill it with whatever ink you want. So if the standard Pentel ink it doesn't do it for you, you can fill it with a higher flow ink, or you can fill it with a water ink so that it flows better, or you can do a waterproof ink, or you could fill it with different colors if you get it fresh. Once you've filled it with one color ink, it tends to stay that way. So, but yeah, this is when I ink, I usually go for this brush or the next brush that I'm going to show off. So this is my second favorite brush pen, and I will move on to my very favorite brush pen. But this is the Kuretake brush. I believe I got this at a convention, but you can find these on jetpens.com. Once again, not a sponsor of my show. But I really like the feel of this brush. It's a little bit more precise than the pocket brush here. So I can get finer details, and I like the way it snaps. And, everything about it, this just fits my hand perfectly. The length is nice, so it has a nice feel to it. I don't know, man. I'm really happy with this brush, and when I found it, I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna use this forever when I ink things. So, but yeah, this is definitely one of my favorites. I use it for all sorts of stuff. I mean, brush pens are really good for organic shapes, but if you want to draw something more mechanic, like let's see, Common Writer, they work too. Just use a thinner line, because typically associate mechanical stuff with thin lines. So you don't always have to use a Micron, you can just use a brush pen. It gives it a little bit more character than just straight lines, Also, this is really difficult to do one-handed, I'm sorry. Looks like ass. But there's a quick Kamen Rider. There's a muffler. Yeah, but for organic shapes, things that are smooshy, nothing beats a brush pen in my estimation. You can get similar shapes out of Microns too, but I feel like you're fighting a little bit more with the tool than if you're using a brush like this. So that's my favorite brush pen. Could do a lot of damage with it. Woo! You can get really crazy effects, like explosions, that kind of stuff. Yeah, and that's the other nice thing about this one. This also does a lot of nice dry brush effects if you mash down the edge like that. So makes it look like it's a sumi-e brush. Then yeah, Alright, so yeah, here's a mess of ink stuff. But yeah, so those are my favorite inky tools. Hope you enjoy them. I highly recommend both of these two if you're looking for brush pens and if you're tired of using felt-tipped pens. These are great because they're both nylon bristles, so they're like an actual brush, and they're really fun, and they're refillable, so you can use them over and over and over and over and over again. And if you want to ruin one and mash it down and screw it up, you can get these nice dry brush effects. Alright, I'm done. Done with the demo.
Alright, so hopefully that was informative, or at least motivated some of you to try out some new tools. If you're joining up with the Inktober challenge, it's not too late to start. There really are no rules. So like, you can start in the middle of the month, you could start at the very beginning of the month, you could start in November. Who cares? Who gives a shit? But the idea is just to get out there and challenge yourself to do something new and to do something every day. That's part of the challenge, is to get in the habit of drawing every day, because so many of us only draw when inspiration hits us. And you know, if you're doing this for a living, you really should be drawing every day, even if it's like a little sketch in your sketchbook, or a little thumbnail, or a little idea of something. You should be doing something every day. So yeah, if you're jumping into Inktober, please share what you're doing wherever you see this in the comments, or like post your social media links and I'll check it out, because I'm always curious to see what people are doing. And one of these years I will participate myself and do some Inktober stuff. Alright, so that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for checking it out, and good luck to you, Inktober-ites. I don't know if there's an official word for you guys. But yeah, if you're participating, good on you. I will join you one of these years. Alright, bye.